Ready or not, the moment of truth is here. Having abundant energy in the future requires critical choices today. And energy pioneers are turning challenge into opportunity.
Liquid gold made right here in this country.
From big business,
it is in everyone's economic interest. You make money, you improve the environment.
To your next door neighbor.
We look out at this sea of roofs and we just think, well, there should be a panel on every roof.
From China to the U.S. military, some surprising new players are leading the charge. I'm M. Sanjan, and the race to power our future starts now. Suppose you decided to save the world a lot of energy, and you wanted to start with the one part of our lives that burns up more power than any other. Where would you begin? If you said transportation, you'd be wrong. What about industry? Wrong again. No, the lion's share of our energy goes to power buildings. That's where we work, shop, pray, eat, live. Our buildings suck up 41% of America's power. And we're throwing a lot of that power right out the window. One noteworthy example towers above the Manhattan skyline. Built at the height of the Great Depression, the Empire State Building stands as a symbol of our ability to overcome any obstacle. Now, it's taking the lead in a new 21st century challenge: the war against wasted energy.
And I can use that.
Paul Rohde, part of a growing power efficiency movement, is tackling the job.
It's not so much about conservation, but more about using energy the right way to do more.
Rohde and other green building engineers act as energy sleuths, hunting down power savings that are all around us.
So these streets for you are just lined with opportunity?
They are lined with opportunity, absolutely. Yeah. I see clues that signal energy savings. The lights on, for instance, in the top floor of that building.
Right.
That's a clue. The ventilation systems in that building, I see that there are no louvers outside. There's probably a better way to move the air inside.
Here you've got one giant...
Rohde's got plenty to do retrofitting the world's most famous office building. Every working day, the Empire State Building burns through enough electricity to power 40,000 American households. And about 40% of that energy is wasted in ways Rohde says he can fix. His design has got to be good enough to supply the energy demands of 25,000 people a day, moving in and out of the building, needing air conditioning in the summer, heat in the winter, and light all year round. There must be enough power to handle the countless high-tech devices we take for granted, but with the stuff of science fiction when the building went up in 1931. Rohde reimagines old buildings to meet modern energy demands, bringing back the best of what already exists.
How high are we?
We're on the 41st floor.
Okay.
About midway
Right.
in the part of the building. That's
Like raising the ceilings,
Lots of light coming.
lots of light in here.
What is it, 10 feet up, right?
It's over 10 feet up.
while adding new technological innovations
Light comes into the space much deeper.
such as programmable cooling and heating systems.
Photo cells and occupancy sensors so that things get turned off.
Sure.
And so when it leaves their workstation, all miscellaneous loads at that workstation are shut off.
Yeah.
Oversized ductwork so that the air flows through the ductwork much slower.
Green engineers like Rohde believe that saving watts of energy is just as important as generating watts.
We're taking power off of the building, okay? Instead of supplying the building with more power, we're finding ways to take power off.
Rohde is aiming for savings on a grand scale in the Empire State Building. But he's pointing the way for all of us to add power to the system by not using it. energy creation by negation. It's the one action we can all take in our daily lives to contribute to the solution. Turning off a light keeps coal in the ground. Leaving a car at home boosts oil reserves. Taking a shorter shower expands the natural gas supply. Easy and obvious fixes. What conservationists call low-hanging fruit. Apply Roadie's more aggressive methods to conserve energy across Manhattan, and the energy savings would power nearly half the households on the island. Retrofit all U.S. commercial buildings, and you could provide electricity to the entire state of New York or the country of France. Empire State Building principal owner Anthony Malkin, a born and bred New York real estate man, is shelling out $20 million for Roadie's retrofit. To Malkin, wasted power is wasted money.
The three costs of occupancy of an office building are salary, rent, and utilities. And people don't keep track enough of how that utility cost creeps up and over time expands.
Right, no, I think Malkin's message is simple. Saving energy is good business.
It is in everyone's economic interest. You make money, you improve the environment.
Doing good and doing well is at the heart of Paul Roadie's appeal to tough-minded landlords. And he sold Anthony Malkin on the deal with a money-back guarantee. If his fixes don't cut the Empire State Building's energy use by more than a third, he'll pay Malkin the difference.
When you do all these
Courageous? You bet. But with the Empire State Building, halfway measures won't cut it. A key element in Roadie's plan is a campaign to fix one of the most visible and wasteful features on the building, the windows. All 6,500 of them.
Of course, when he decided to update every single window on the building, he had a dilemma.
He could buy new windows, but that would mean scrapping all the old ones. 425 tons of perfectly good glass and manufacturing an entirely new set. It takes a lot of energy to make 6,500 windows. Not to mention trucking them all into Manhattan, burning barrels of oil and gas in the process. By the time the job was complete, any energy savings from the new, more efficient windows would be wiped out by the power spent to make and install them.
So where are we heading to now? Oh, the window preparation area.
So Roadie decided to do something that had never been done before. Fix the existing windows right here in the building.
Through here? Thank you, sir. And down this way. Wow. Let's see where it all comes together. This is very well choreographed, right? Much like an operation that you would see in the military.
These windows were installed less than 15 years ago and are already double pane, which saves energy. But Roadie's team is on a mission to take apart every window and make them even more efficient. 50% more.
A giant squeegee. And that's exactly what's going on. Right. The glass is being cleaned here.
Each window will be cleaned, inspected,
looking for flaws and imperfections in the glass,
and fitted with a special solar film that lets in light while blocking heat.
It's basically this stuff, right? Lets light in, but it doesn't heat up the building.
That's correct.
So you're lowering your air conditioning.
We're lowering our air conditioning bill, and we're also actually lowering our lighting bill because we're using that light to see with.
Of course. But what's amazing is you're refurbishing the windows.
That's the point. That is the point. The greenest building is one that's already built. We want to reuse as many parts and pieces of this building as possible.
But will it work for others? Roadie and Malkin believe it will, and are making their methods public. They're banking on succeeding in one of the world's best-loved buildings and proving to others that good energy policy is good business.
It's funny, you're looking at 4 or 5 of our buildings over my shoulder in New York City below. And when we first conducted these conversations, I suggested a building down there between 35th and 36th Street on Broadway. And they said, if we succeed with that, no one will care. We want to do the Empire State Building because if we can impact the Empire State Building, we can grab the attention of the world.
If we're going to solve the energy problem, we'll have to pay attention to the risk takers showing us the way. And they're out there, if you know where to look. Some are towering above us. Others live right down the street. It's an energy revolution that could be coming soon to a neighborhood near you.
The number of choices we face in our daily lives can be absolutely staggering. These shelves are just jam-packed with stuff, all competing for our attention and, of course, our dollars.
And the products promoting themselves as good for the environment keep growing in number and variety. Decisions confront us from all sides, boggling our minds. Incandescent or fluorescent, gas or electric, paper or plastic, cage-free or free range.
The constant barrage of choices can paralyze even the savviest and most well-meaning of shoppers. It's no wonder so many simply throw up their arms and give up even trying to make a difference.
Most of us don't know anything about the energy we consume. We use it, we pay for it, end of story. But in some communities across America, next-door neighbors are joining forces to tap into the power that is all around us. Last fall, solar panels began appearing on rooftops in the middle-class neighborhood of Mount Pleasant in Washington, D.C. The local power company didn't put them there. People did. It took 3 years of sweat, persistence, and teamwork by the Mount Pleasant Solar Co-op, a volunteer community organization, to get the panels in place.
Drop it in, it's getting hot.
Anya Schoolman is the co-founder of the co-op. She says the idea came from her teenage son.
My son Walter and his best friend Diego came back from seeing the movie Inconvenient Truth. And we were sitting around the table with them and Diego's dad Jeff and talking about what could we do, and decided really that we should go solar, that fit our neighborhood, our roofs, and that was the beginning of it.
But Anya, Walters, and their friends discovered a daunting set of obstacles stood between them and their solar dream. Too many products to choose from, too much paperwork to fill out, and too much money for contractors and permits and panels.
Instead of quitting, we said, okay, if we're going to figure this thing out, we're doing the whole neighborhood, because it's too much work to do it on our own.
Around the neighborhood, word spread quickly about the co-op, especially after Walter began a project that brought a steady stream of people to the house.
My son Walter did a project with compact fluorescent light bulbs. And what we found is that most people had heard of compact fluorescent light bulbs, but they hadn't really used them, or they had them in 1 or 2 light bulbs. And so what Walter did is purchased every light bulb variety we could find in the city, and we tested them.
We're trying to replace this light with this kind of light, and one of the things we really like about it is that it's very hard to tell the difference, but this one uses significantly less electricity than this one.
We bought $3,000 worth of light bulbs, and we filled up this room behind me with boxes of light bulbs. And it turned out to be a great organizing technique because people came in small batches and we really had a time to meet people and get to know people. And the real strength of the co-op came from those relationships.
Soon, the Mount Pleasant Solar Co-op was attracting dozens of people to meetings in Anya's living room. They asked questions, compared notes, and strategized about everything from cutting political red tape to bargaining with solar installers.
What really surprised us was how many different kinds of people were really interested in this, and they all knew something about solar. They really thought it was a neat idea, having their own power.
Credit for that, and it's really a good pot of money.
That's another thing.
And then, of course, people are really motivated by climate change.
There are only a few dozen solar co-ops in the United States today, but the number is growing. Private citizens taking matters into their own hands to change the way America gets its power. Co-ops differ in the details. Some charge fees, some don't.
Question time.
But they all find strength in numbers. Finding the right panels at better prices, arguing with local utilities for high-tech metering systems.
But it's a non-taxable grant. That's the key thing.
And pushing politicians for tax breaks to make solar more affordable. Anya and her family were among the first in Mount Pleasant to turn their rooftop into a power plant. After 3 years of battling the system, installing the panels was a snap.
Actually, these were installed in a day.
And they're just stuck on.
Now, solar panels are sprinkled across the neighborhood rooftops.
One over there.
There's two right there. There's here. There's one over there. There's ours, and there's several more that direction.
And there's 47 installations all around just this neighborhood, which is about 5 blocks this way and about 5 blocks that way. We look out at this sea of roofs and we just think, well, there should be a panel on every roof, and every person that lives in D.C. should have the chance to lower their bill by 30 or 50%. Why not?
The co-op helped Tom Kelly fulfill a decades-long dream to harvest the sun.
I went solar because of a day like this, you know. It's obvious as the sun in your face that this is a good, benign, non-invasive, simple technology. I wonder why everybody doesn't do it. Look, it's not making any noise. It's not moving. It's just sitting here giving me electricity. That is so very cool.
Now neighbors like Tom Kelly and Rob Robinson compete in producing electricity.
Today's total so far is 19.7 kilowatts.
Oh, Jesus.
Eat your heart out.
Yeah. Make it hurt. Good Lord. They're going to owe you money this month.
I'm hoping.
Now, when the sun is out and his lights are off, Tom's meter runs backwards.
Hours.
Yeah, but how fast is your meter turning
I looked at it about an hour ago. It was 1355. Now it's at 1353.
That means he's selling his homebrewed energy to the power company, and his bill is down a whopping 80%.
I love your monitoring system.
And everybody likes to beat up on themselves.
As much as they love spinning their electricity bills backwards, co-op members have some higher motives as well. Hooking up solar helps free them from coal, a problematic fuel that provides 40% of the electricity in the world. Unrivaled in its power, coal has two major drawbacks. Mining it scars the landscape, and burning it endangers the planet by pouring climate-changing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. 40% of the CO2 pumped into the air comes from burning coal.
At 1 p.m., I was...
A number Kelly and other co-op members are happy to bring down.
It was like in
What I've done so far this year is equivalent to planting 33 trees. You see that?
Yes, I do.
And I've reduced my carbon footprint by 3,017 pounds. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but I feel good about it.
There's a mountaintop in West Virginia that's building a monument to you. Yeah,
So why is solar power providing less than 1% of U.S. electricity? No surprise here. Money. Technology continues to cut the price of materials dramatically. But in the U.S., solar is still 3 times more expensive than coal. It costs about $20,000 to install even a small rooftop array. But things are changing. Government tax breaks are bringing solar within range of the middle class. Most arrays will now pay for themselves in 5 to 10 years and keep on generating power for 30. But getting away from coal is never going to be easy.
The whole system in the United States is set up for a different kind of energy right now, a different kind of delivery. And it's really, there's no silver bullet. It's a gradual chipping away. You need a new regulation here, you need a new kind of machine there, and it's the constant being on top of how to make the implementation easier, more practical, cheaper.
Breaking with the norm takes courage, a willingness to gamble. But with energy, standing still may be the riskiest play of all. Especially when other countries are zooming ahead of the US.
It's always tough to make a decision when you just can't be sure of the consequences. Energy choices often involve laying out money in advance. I mean, essentially betting on some future benefit delivered down the line.
The key players at the energy table: big business, government, banks, lay out billions of dollars every year, hoping for a payoff. The power game is changing. In 2009, for the first time, the amount of money laid down on renewable energy investments was more than the cash funneled into fossil fuels. And some countries are betting the house that this trend will continue. They believe that renewable energy is not only a good way to save the planet, it's also a great way to create new jobs. Take the solar power industry. Making and installing solar energy systems employs over 750,000 workers globally. One of the world's high-tech hubs for solar panel research is still in the US, Silicon Valley, California. These days, the money and the silicon that greased the internet boom is migrating towards clean energy products. Applied Materials, the world's largest supplier of machines that make computer chips, now leads the world in a growing new market: machines that make solar panels. But most of their billion-dollar business is overseas.
So, Mike, what are we seeing out here?
Well, what we're seeing is an array of solar cells.
CEO Mike Splinter worries that other countries are beating the US to a valuable new market.
Producing electric machines.
75% of the solar panel making machines go to Chinese companies.
They help make. 5 years ago, China made about 5% of the solar panels. This year, they'll make almost 50%.
Sort of all the global solar panels on the planet?
Yes.
Half of them are going to be made in China?
Yes. And that switchover just happened in the last few years.
So does that really worry you?
As an American, it certainly worries me. I think this is the biggest opportunity, the biggest market that we're going to see in this century. And that creates a huge opportunity for jobs to be created. If all those jobs go someplace else, we're just trading our energy dependence from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East to
China or other countries that are going to really make the investment to produce renewable energy.
China is pumping $34 billion a year into clean technologies, nearly double what the U.S. commits.
At the very top level, China has undergone a shift in the way they think about environment.
Peggy Liu heads a think tank studying China's energy policies.
In the last 3 years, we have really undergone somewhat of a green revolution in terms of attitude, in terms of mentality.
That green revolution is creating a lot of jobs, funded by government money. And when it comes to rolling out green energy goods, China's ambitions are clear. They want to lead the market in products needed to save the planet. Things like vacuum tubes that use solar power to heat water. 95% of all solar thermal tubes are made in China. About a third of them will be shipped around the world. But most will stay right here, becoming part of China's own push to use renewable energy at home.